Welcome back to the Attack on Israel Part 2. Today's lesson is entitled The Mind Which Has Wisdom. Revelation chapter 17 verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The scarlet beast is the beast which will be in place during the end times, before the return of Jesus. Today I'll be discussing what the 7 heads and the 10 horns are referring to. Revelation chapter 17 verses 9 through 11. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come, and when he comes, he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. Let's start with the 7 heads. The 7 heads are referring to 7 kings or kingdoms. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. Let's start with the one that is. This is referring to the kingdom that was in power when John was writing the book of Revelation while on the island of Patmos in 95 AD. The kingdom in power in 95 AD was the Roman Empire, and the Roman Emperor Domitian was on the throne. History records Domitian as one of the most cruel and wicked of all Roman emperors. He declared himself to be God and sentenced those to death who refused to worship him. The early Christians who did refuse to worship him were sentenced to death by the thousands. So the Roman Empire is the kingdom that is. This is a map of the Roman Empire when it was at its greatest extent in 117 AD. Now let's go to the 5 that have fallen. These would be the 5 kingdoms that were in power before the Roman Empire, and each of these kingdoms would overtake the kingdom before them. Also, it should be noted that each of these 5 kingdoms would either battle, capture, or enslave the Israelites during the time of their power. Each of these kingdoms would be punished by God because they messed with Israel, and a remnant of Israel will always survive. So the first kingdom of the fallen would be the nation that either fought, captured, or enslaved the Israelites after they settled into the land of Canaan. God called Abraham to leave the land of Ur and travel to the land of Canaan in approximately 1885 BC. At this time, God set about making a people for himself, to be a witness of himself to the nations, and they were given the land of Canaan. Through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob came the 12 tribes of Israel, and they inhabited the land God gave them, the area currently known as Israel, including the West Bank, Gaza, and the Golan Heights. They remained there until a famine took over the land in approximately 1670 BC. Jacob and his family, including wives, children, spouses, and grandchildren, left Israel and moved to Egypt due to the severe drought which threatened their very lives. Isaiah chapter 52 verse 4. For thus says the Lord God, my people went down at first into Egypt to dwell there. Though this move out of Israel was voluntary, they would find themselves imprisoned in Egypt and unable to return home. Due to this, the Egyptians became the first kingdom to enslave the Israelites, making Egypt the first kingdom of the 5 fallen. Exodus chapter 1 verses 13 and 14. So the Egyptians made the children of Israel serve with rigor, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar, in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service in which they made them serve was with rigor. Around 1400 BC, God appointed Moses to deliver the Israelites out of Egypt and back to Israel. This is a picture of Egypt and the area that it controlled around 1400 BC. Egypt controlled parts of modern-day Egypt, Libya, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, and Turkey. Jude chapter 1 verse 5. But I want to remind you, though you once knew this, that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed those who did not believe. Because Egypt enslaved the Israelites, God would punish Egypt by sending another nation to destroy them. Isaiah chapter 20 verse 4. So shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptians as prisoners, and the Ethiopians as captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, with their buttocks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. The Egyptian kingdom was considered one of the most impenetrable nations in the Middle East. The Egyptians had ruled undisturbed for 2,500 years. However, the Egyptian empire was slowly brought to its knees due to century-long droughts, economic crisis, and foreign invaders. By 671 BC, the Assyrians conquered Egypt in less than 1 month. Thus, the second kingdom of the five fallen is Assyria. At its height, this empire stretched from Egypt to the Persian Gulf, taken in the areas covered by the modern-day countries of Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, plus parts of Jordan, Turkey, Armenia, and Iran. Now comes the fall of Assyria. Nahum chapter 3 verse 7. It shall come to pass that all who look upon you will flee from you and say, Nineveh is laid waste. Who will bemoan her? Where shall I seek comforters for you? Nineveh is the capital of Assyria. In the book of Jonah, the people of Nineveh repented, and God spared them from destruction. However, the Assyrians eventually returned to their wicked ways, leading to their downfall. The book of Nahum prophesied the downfall of Nineveh, predicting its destruction as a punishment for its cruelty and violence. In 612 BC, under the leadership of the Babylonians, the city of Nineveh was burnt to the ground, and the Assyrian Empire crumbled. The surviving Assyrians were scattered and became assimilated into different cultures and societies. Many were taken as captives or slaves by their conquerors. The third kingdom of the five fallen is Babylon. During the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian Empire consisted of modern-day Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Kuwait, and parts of Egypt, Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. Now the fall of Babylon. After Belshazzar, the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, became the king of Babylon, he made a great feast for 1,000 of his lords. He served wine in the gold vessels that King Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple of the house of God in Jerusalem. In that same hour, the fingers of a man's hand appeared and wrote a message on the wall. Daniel, who had been taken captive when Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon, was the only one who could interpret the message. Daniel chapter 5, verses 25 to 28 from the New International Version. This is the inscription that was written, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin. Here is what these words mean. Mene, God has numbered the days of your reign and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed on the scales and found wanting. Peres, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. The expression, the handwriting on the wall, comes from this story. Daniel chapter 5, verses 30 and 31. That very night Belshazzar, king of the Chaldeans, was slain, and Darius the Mede received the kingdom, being about 62 years old. The fall of the Babylonian Empire came suddenly, when the Medes and the Persians, under King Cyrus and his uncle Darius, overran the city of Babylon in a night attack in 538 or 539 BC. During the feast of Belshazzar, the Medes dug a canal that diverted the water that flowed under the city wall. This allowed the Medes to enter the city of Babylon through the dry channel underneath the walls. The fourth kingdom of the five fallen is Medo-Persia. At its greatest extent, the Medo-Persian Empire consisted of modern-day Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Iraq, and Iran, and parts of Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Turkmenistan. Beyond what is shown on this map, It also consisted of parts of Libya, Egypt, Thrace, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Romania. Now the fall of Medo-Persia. Daniel chapter 11, verses 1 to 3. Also in the first year of Darius the Mede, I, even I, stood up to confirm and strengthen him. And now I will tell you the truth. Behold, 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than them all, by his strength, through his riches. He shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. Then a mighty king shall arise, who shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. The first king after King Darius was King Cambyses, from 529 to 522 BC. The second was King Smerdis, also known as Artaxerxes, from 522 to 521 BC. The third was King Darius Hystaspes, from 521 to 485 BC. King Ahasuerus was the 4th king to reign in Persia, from 485 to 465 BC. The Persian Empire entered a period of decline after a failed invasion of Greece by King Ahasuerus in 480 BC. The costly defense of Persia's lands depleted the empire's funds, leading to heavier taxation among Persia's subjects. Then a mighty king will arise. This mighty king was Alexander the Great, king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia. Alexander the Great conquered the Medo-Persians in 331 BC. The 5th kingdom of the 5 fallen is Greece. At its height, the Greek Empire consisted of Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Greece, Iran, and Afghanistan, and parts of Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, Turkey, Iraq, Pakistan, Turkmenistan, Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Romania. Daniel chapter 11, verse 4. And when he had arisen, his kingdom shall be broken up and divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, but not among his posterity, nor according to his dominion with which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be uprooted, even for others besides these. Alexander the Great died in 323 BC. Since he had no children, his 4 generals fought for control of his kingdom. In 321 BC, Seleucus Nicator, one of the 4 generals, received the Mesopotamian region of Babylonia, and from that point on continued to expand his dominions ruthlessly. In 312 BC, Seleucus established himself in Babylon and founded the Seleucid Empire. One of the most successful Seleucid rulers was Antiochus III the Great, who reigned from 223 to 187 BC. He established a strong presence in Greece, where he supported the Achaean League in its conflict against Rome, and he began a very expensive military campaign against Rome. Unfortunately for him, he could not defeat the Romans, and he was left with no option but to end his campaign. His ambitious drive had resulted in the permanent loss of Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. Now the fall of Greece. The fall of Greece began when Antiochus III the Great failed to defeat the Romans and lost the territories in Anatolia. This loss weakened the Seleucids and contributed to the fragmentation of their empire over the following decades. The Seleucid Empire was eventually overthrown in 63 BC by the Roman Republic under the Roman general Pompey. This brings us back to Rome, the 6th kingdom, the one that is ruling during the time that John was on the island of Patmos in 95 AD. The territory of the Roman Empire during the time of 117 AD covered the areas occupied by the following modern-day countries: Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Turkey, Egypt, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, England, Wales, France, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, Switzerland, Austria, Italy, Hungary, Germany, Romania, Greece, Albania, and Yugoslavia. The sheer size of the Roman Empire eventually became problematic. It was too large to manage and became more susceptible to barbaric invasions. In 284 AD, a new emperor came to power by the name of Diocletian. In order to restore unity, he created an emperor in the west, with Rome as its capital, and another emperor in the east, with its capital at Nicomedia. In 330 A.D., the Roman Emperor Constantinople the Great declared the nearby city of Byzantium the new capital of the Eastern Roman Empire instead of Nicomedia. He renamed the city Constantinople after himself. This is how the division between the Eastern and Western Roman Empire looked in 395 A.D. Over time, the Eastern Roman Empire thrived, while the West declined. After the fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476, the eastern half would remain and become, in time, the Byzantine Empire. Now the fight for Mesopotamia was on between the Sasanian Empire and the Byzantine Empire. The Sasanian Empire was a Persian imperial dynasty, also referred to as an ancient Iranian dynasty. The Byzantines and the Sasanians were rival powers who fought each other for supremacy in the Middle East. The Byzantine-Sasanian War of 602 to 628 is considered to be the most devastating of the wars fought between them and ended in a peace treaty. However, there were further repercussions of the war that neither side could have imagined. Not long after the conclusion of the war, the Muslims were united by the Prophet Muhammad under the banner of Islam. Both the Byzantine and Sasanian empires were exhausted and weakened by the protracted war, which facilitated the expansion of the Muslims under Umar the Caliph of the Rashidun Caliphate. The Sasanian Empire was completely conquered by the Muslims in 654 A.D. Around the same time, the Muslims also attacked the Byzantines. By the time the Sasanian Empire fell, the Byzantines had lost the Levant, Syria, and Egypt. The Byzantines, however, did not suffer the fate of the Sasanian rivals, as their empire continued to exist for several more centuries. The early Muslim conquests, or early Islamic conquests, also known as the Arab conquests, took place in 622 to 670 A.D. They were initiated in the 7th century by Muhammad, the main Islamic prophet. He established a new unified policy in Arabia that expanded rapidly under the Rashidun Caliphate and the Umayyad Caliphate, culminating in Islamic rule being established on 3 continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. Around 1290, Osman, a Muslim warrior and leader of a small principality inside Seljuk Turk territory, declared his independence from the Seljuk Sultan and formed the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire is known today for being one of the greatest empires of the modern world, but it was perhaps more important for becoming a great Islamic caliphate. On May 29, 1453, the Ottoman Empire captured the prized capital city of Constantinople, which led to the fall of the Byzantine Empire. Thus, the Roman Empire, which began roughly in 27 BC and had lasted for nearly 1,500 years, was defeated. This was God's vengeance against the Roman Empire, because Satan had empowered them to kill millions of Christians in his attempt to wipe out Christianity. This makes the 7th kingdom, or the kingdom that has not yet come, Islamic. At its height, the territory that was conquered stretched from Iberia in the west to India in the east. Muslim rule spanned Sicily, most of the Middle East, North Africa, the Caucasus, and Central Asia. Though the Ottoman Empire persisted for 600 years, it succumbed to what most historians describe as a long, slow decline. Finally, after fighting on the side of Germany in World War I and suffering defeat, the empire was dismantled and came to an end in 1922, when the last Ottoman Sultan, Mehmed, was deposed and left the capital of Constantinople in a British warship. From the Ottoman Empire's remains arose the modern nation of Turkey, and Constantinople is now modern-day Istanbul. Revelation chapter 13, verse 3. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. The titles of Caliph and Sultan have been joined as one since 1517. This maimed both the Sultan and the Caliph for the Muslims. The Muslims were forced to give up their Caliph after the end of World War I. This is what caused the wound to the head. This wound to the head was healed in 2014 when Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi of ISIS was declared the Caliph of Islam. This makes the beast that is also the eighth and is of the seven the revived Islamic Empire. Islam is the world's second largest religion, as well as the fastest growing religion in the world, with approximately 1.9 billion followers as of 2020. Islam is the religion of majority in several countries, including Central Asia, Western Asia, North Africa, West Africa, the Sahel, and the Middle East. The diverse Asia-Pacific region contains the highest number of Muslims in the world, easily surpassing the combined Middle East and North Africa. So, to recap the mystery of Revelation, Revelation chapter 17, verses 10 and 11. There are also 7 kings, 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come, and when he comes he must continue a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7, and is going to perdition. So 5 have fallen, Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. 1 is, referring to Rome. The other has not yet come, is Islam. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th and is of the 7, is the Islamic Empire, which was revived in 2014. Revelation chapter 17, verse 3. So he carried me away in the Spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So if the answer to the mystery is correct, then the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns is Islamic. Revelation chapter 7, verses 12 and 13. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. The 10 horns are 10 Islamic nations that unite against Israel. These 10 nations were foretold in the book of Ezekiel to be Libya, Egypt, Turkey, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Yemen. We could be witnessing the formation of these 10 nations right now. Luke chapter 21, verse 28. Now when these things begin to happen, look up and lift up your heads, because your redemption draws near. Once these 10 nations unite and surround Israel, lift up your heads, for this is the time when Jesus will return. Thank you for attending. For more information on the 10 horns, please refer to Modern Day Ezekiel and the Attack on Israel, Part 1 of this series. God bless.